My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're going to dig into some common mistakes that I see in weight loss. And the reason I want to bring this to you here today is because I don't want you to make these mistakes. I don't want this to be something that holds you back from getting the results you want. And I want this to be the episode that just finally hit home, the episode that made you go, dang, I didn't realize that. And an episode that makes you say, I got to get my you-know-what together. I want to see these results, because life is so beautiful when you take care of yourself, when you feel good in your own skin. I could go on about the health aspect, but everybody understands that. I know how much you're going to benefit from just a health standpoint. But the byproduct of feeling good in your own skin, your clothes fitting really well, feeling confident to wear certain things. See, even myself, there were things that I wouldn't wear. You know how all the shirts seem to be like cropped? Well, I realized it was cropped because my belly was sticking out. So you don't have to worry about that when there's nothing sticking out. And I'm hopefully you're laughing, but I saw the trend with shirts, and I was like, dude, your belly's hanging out. But I'm like, well, the model looks super toned and pretty. And I'm like, mine is just not cool. But obviously then losing weight, it's amazing how those shirts are actually really nice for especially shorter women. It actually hits really, really nice, and I think helps me look a little bit longer because I'm definitely vertically challenged here. So, okay, let's dive into these common mistakes. And I would love to hear your feedback. If you have questions post to this podcast, you can hit me up on any socials. And here's the other thing too, while I'm on this, is share this podcast. Share this podcast with another woman that you feel can benefit, that you feel has been making these same mistakes themselves. So let's see how many women we can impact with this podcast. That would be so cool, and I would be forever grateful if you could continue to share this out. You can share it just by screenshotting it and putting it on social media. If you can add the link to send the person right there, that's even better. Or just simply grab the link to what you're listening, and you can send it in a text really easy. So, all right, so let's dig into these common mistakes. So common mistakes that I see is we latch on to the latest, greatest, whether it's a fad, whether it's a diet, whether it's a cleanse, some type of workout regime, or we go on TikTok, right? Or we go on Pinterest and we see this thing, and like a couple girlfriends might be doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, I'll do it too. Well, just be leery, okay? So be leery of any of these things that are coming out on the market that claim you can do X, Y, and Z, okay? Now, here's the thing. I will tell you that most diets, most people can't adhere to them, okay? Number one. I remember when Whole30 first came out, and the point and premise behind that whole program is great. It really helps people who have sensitivities to different foods, but most people could not do it or do it correctly because it is extremely restrictive. And so I would always laugh when clients would tell me, oh, I'm doing Whole30 kinda. And I'm like, what's kinda about this? Well, we do this, or I'm not going to give up that. And I'm like, well, you're missing the whole point. Okay. And the other thing about cleanses, see, I used to do cleanses all the time, and it was something that even I adopted as, we really should cleanse our body. But let's just be honest, when you're eating really, really well, you're taking care of your body, you're on point 90% of the time, you don't need to cleanse. Like, we really don't need to cleanse the body. And just to be honest, any of the results you saw in that short duration of time is typically just water weight. It's not even real, because a lot of times you're not eating very many calories. So, of course, the scale goes down. So, I want you to stay super jaded when it comes to anything that you see on social media platforms that is claiming some quick fix, that is claiming that you're going to see results in this short amount of time. Like, listen, to see results, it does take time. I wish it was faster all day, every day. And can you lose weight fast? 100%. What I'm more interested in is, can you lose the weight for life? There's no sense in losing weight, putting it back on, and research shows that that is even harder on your body, okay? So do not, number one, do not latch on to these latest, greatest fads. Everything goes around and comes around. Like, I swear to God, the intermittent fasting, daily fasting, keto, all this stuff always gets recycled, okay? So it's amazing how many times these things, or they get branded different names. There was Medifast, then it was OptiFast, it was Stanford Diet. It was, there's so many different names that has gone under. What is it right now? I think it's currently called OptiFast or something like that. So anyways, just remember, if you can't do said diet for the rest of your life, don't do it at all. There's that. All right. So the next problem that I see, or mistake that I see happen, is thinking that a cheat meal isn't a big deal, or the folks that dub it to be a cheat day, right? What you don't understand is, to lose a pound of fat, you have to be in a 3,500 calorie deficit, okay? And the best advice that I have is to do that week after week after week, and you will lose true and sincere adipose tissue, or the fat tissue, off your body. Can you lose more than 1 pound a week? Of course you can. Can you create more of a deficit? Of course you can. So the recommendation that I recommend when it comes to cheat meals, first off, I just don't even like calling it that. So let's just use an example. Like, for several of my clients, they enjoy going out for Mexican. Who doesn't? But when you go to a Mexican restaurant, there's typically chips and salsa, the never-ending basket of chips. You've got guacamole, and it's so yummy. Then you get this huge platter of all this like super delicious food. Now, let's just be honest, some of the quality I definitely question, but there are better Mexican restaurants out there that do have better quality. But I'm just going to be honest, for a lot of ones that I see, the quality is a little questionable, and I'm just going to say it. But we love it, right? Like, I don't think I've ever had a client that did not enjoy a good old Mexican meal. So what I want to talk about is, I don't want it to be a cheat. What I want it to be is factored in to your daily plan. Okay. So what does that actually mean? Because I don't want you to ever feel like you can't have a cookie, a piece of cake, birthday cupcake, whatever. But we need to really think about, and this is where, if you can plan a little bit of your life, this is what's going to help you understand, okay, hey, let's stay on point. And this is prefaced in a weight loss journey. When you are at your goal, yes, of course, you still have to keep eating in somewhat of a fashion that you're doing today, right? You can't just go all the way back and eat the way you were before, because that was not healthy. And we do have to really embrace that and understand, wow, I was really overeating. I had no clue what a portion needed to look like. And that is typically the case for most women that I work with, is they were just simply overeating. But I want you to really lean into this, you know what? Hey, Saturday, I know we're going to be with family, we're going to be with friends, and I really want to indulge a little bit. Or Like for example, in our household, we really enjoy this local Italian restaurant. We eat there probably 2, 3 times a year. It's typically special occasions like birthday, anniversary, and it's a little bit pricier of a place too. And they hand make everything. And I'm just going to be genuine. Pasta is not our favorite food, but when it's the good pasta, like the real stuff, I'm going to save some calories for that meal. But what I do leading up to that is I typically make sure that I've gotten a good workout in or I got a good walk or run in. I'll keep my calories a little bit dialed back earlier in that day. For example, if we were going to dinner, and then at dinner, I would have reasonable portions. I wouldn't stuff myself, but I would go and I would enjoy the meal. And so that's what I want you to think about is it's not a cheat meal. It's not a cheat day. It's not a cheat weekend or week or whatever, right? Like just because you go on vacation doesn't mean you have to gorge yourself. And I know this is very challenging, and I've coached several clients through vacations. And I remember coaching a client, and every memory, every association came back to food. And it was a very, very interesting thing that every core memory that she had of going to this trip with her family was always tied around the pizza, the ice cream, Arin, we always do X, Y, and Z. And the thing about it is all of that is okay in moderation. But what gets really challenging is if you have a full week of having pizza, ice cream, burgers, like, the good burgers and fries. And, just think about how many calories are being consumed. Now, so here's the thing. There's a couple camps that you can sit in. You can say, hey, I'm going to go have a good time. I'm going to do the things. And you know what? When I get back, it's probably going to take me a week or two, but I'm going to get back on track. Now, side note to that, in that camp, you have to be disciplined to come back and get right back on point. Okay. Now, this can be a slippery slope. And I have watched several people, they'll go on these vacations, they'll overindulge. And then when they get back, we all know how challenging it is to get right back on track. It's either super easy or it's like murder. Okay. So I want you to really lean into this. And let's talk about this on a whole nother level. When we have this gluttonous feeling around food, to understand that that is not normal. That is not something that we should just be constantly, oh my gosh, I need this, I want this, I have to have this. Think about it. If it were alcohol or drugs, you would be like, oh no, that's terrible. Well, it's the same concept when it comes to food. So we want to understand, what are we really doing? We're letting this food absolutely dominate and control every aspect. So here's my caveat. It is not that you can't go and enjoy yourself, but I want you to be reasonable with your food. You don't have to gorge yourself. You can have a fair serving of whatever it is. If you always use your hands as your guide, you've got your palm for your protein, fist for veggies, cupped hand for carbohydrates. Men would have 2 of all that. And you're going to stay within reason. Now, will the scale be a little bit up, even though, yes, because if you're dining out a bunch of times, yes. But what I want to come back to is I don't want you to think of this as cheating. I want you to think of this as, okay, it's Halloween. My kids went trick-or-treating, and heaven forbid I had a Reese cup, right? But you have to be disciplined enough to say, hey, 1 or 2 is enough and I'm good. It's when that is the gateway drug that then, turns on all the candy that lasts for like a couple weeks, maybe a month. Then you go into Thanksgiving, then we start eating all the things again. Then we go into Christmas, and you see how that can be a slippery slope. So I want you to take from this is you can be disciplined in your thought, in your desires, and understand what is actually serving you, what is helping you get towards your goal. So I want you to think about, what does my nutrition need to look like when I'm in weight loss? What does it need to look like when I'm out of weight loss mode and I'm in maintenance? And then when you feel or have special occasions that yes, calories are going to be a little bit higher, how can you navigate it and navigate it well and not send yourself down a spiral? Because there's a couple camps. The camp that it's just a downward spiral the second they let themselves, indulge a little bit. And then there's this other side of it where you can have a little bit, enjoy it. And then guess what? It was reasonable portion and we're right back on track. That's the camp that I prefer you be in. So the next mistake when it comes to weight loss that I see is we simply don't get enough protein. This is probably one of the very, very first things that I coach when I'm talking to women about weight loss, because what the protein does is it provides good satiety. It's not something we crave. Think about the last time you craved a chicken breast. Probably not, right? So think about it this way is to get more protein in our body. Now, I'll have some people will get after me about, too much animal product. Listen, animals were put on this earth for us to consume. It is a good thing. It does provide us with really good nutrients. Can you get protein from your vegetable, plant sources? 100%. But it does take a little bit more, actually a lot more. And it does take being a little more intentional as far as where am I getting my protein? We'll definitely get protein from all your vegetables, specifically broccoli and kale and spinach, but it takes a lot for you to get that 20 to 30 grams of protein, which is a starting point for most women. For women who are more into a strength training phase, they're wanting to put on more lean tissue, they're going to be more in that like 40 to 50, depending on how many meals and what their macros need to look like every single day in order to achieve the result. So we want to stay hyper-focused on protein. If you ever find yourself hungry, ask yourself, have I had enough protein today? This is something that we've really trained our kids, because what I see, and I saw this very, very early in just feeding young children, they don't just naturally go towards a protein source. And think about it, any of the like pastas, carbs, fruits, of course, that's what we want. Even as adults, that's what we're like, oh, that's so yummy, right? And there's actually a lot that goes into it depending on if it's a processed food item, is there artificial sweeteners in it, and then the cravings that are associated and the way that it excites the brain. So there's a lot more that goes into that. And so you really want to consider and ask yourself, how much protein am I getting every single day? Am I getting close to 100? That is really a baseline that I tell most women. So the recommendation for most women is to get 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per ideal body weight. Okay, so I simply just call it 1. And so if your ideal body weight is 140 pounds, then guess what? 140 grams of protein is going to be what you want to do. So I know that sounds like a lot. I know that one can get challenging. I personally rely on using protein powders. I really enjoy First Form, has really, really good protein. I also enjoy their protein sticks. So it's basically like a beef jerky type of stick. And it's just, you can tell it's a better quality product. And again, it is processed, but it's processed and it's better. So that's what you want to look at. Back to what my kids, we've taught them that, hey, if you're hungry after dinner, like literally 15 minutes after dinner, didn't have enough protein. And we've tried 2 things here. We literally saved Liv's plate the other night, and she didn't eat all of her protein. She ate the veggies and the fruit, which was great, right? I'm glad she ate the veggies and the fruit. But I was like, babe, if you don't eat the protein, you are literally going to be raiding the fridge here in 15 minutes. And I said, when you do that, I'm going to make sure that your chicken is sitting here waiting for you. And it was so funny because she literally walked over to the refrigerator, And bless her heart, she looked in the fridge, looked back at me, I'm looking at her, and she went over and ate her chicken. Which was cold, by the way. And I was like, hey, babe, I will warm that up. But I digress. I was just laughing because she knew, like, if she didn't go eat the protein. And then after that, I was like, fine, you eat what you want to eat. Because I knew she had in her body what was good. And so here's another thing that we did. If you've got kids, and I mean, so our kids are 5 and 7 right now, almost 6 and 7. And so I was laughing because the other night I literally only put chicken on Leo's plate because he will always eat the fruits. He won't eat the veggies. I've tried. I've done every daggum veggie under the sun, but at least I can get him to eat the fruit, right? And so he will always just mow down on the fruit. Well, I literally just put the chicken on his plate and I said, yo, I have another plate for you when you finish that, and then you can have the goodies over here. And it was beautiful. He literally ate all of the chicken. And the funny thing is they do enjoy it, but when you have other options on your plate, right, like you're not going to do it. So I hope you guys are all laughing at my different trials and tribulations of getting young children to eat protein. But it's no different with adults, right? Like, gotta jazz it up. If I had to always eat a chicken breast every single night, like I would get super annoyed and bored and not want to eat it. I rely on a lot of sauces, a lot of different seasonings. I really enjoy the Noble made sauces. I love Primal Kitchen. Those are ones that are really, they're better products. They have less sugar in them, less crap in them. And so those have become just a staple. A lot of times we'll make up burgers, and I really enjoy Primal Kitchen's. It's like a barbecue sauce, but it's more of a tangy sauce. But I'm of course I love a sweet barbecue sauce, right? Like who didn't love Sweet Baby Ray's? But that hasn't been in our house in a hot minute. But actually, they have a sugar-free one that's probably just fine. But anyways, the Primal Kitchen in a burger is like so good. Partner it with a veggie and you've got such a satisfying meal. Now, you want to think about different varieties, like what about a pork chop or cooking up some fish? And you want to consider the portion. The other place that I see the biggest opportunity is lunch. So sometimes we can sneak it in without an animal source when we have Greek yogurt, when we have cottage cheese, if your stomach will tolerate that. And those have been some really good things to help bump up. I know that I have started really heavily adding Greek yogurt instead of sour cream to a lot of my bowls. I like to make a lot of bowls. So for me personally, I will marinate a bunch of chicken. And here lately, I've just loved this what is it? A chipotle marinade that I've been doing, and then I grill it, and then I'll slice it up. I'll put it on some riced cauliflower. I'll go ahead and just chop up bell peppers so they're just raw. But then once you heat it up in the microwave, then it cooks those, which is really nice. So you get these fresh veggies, and then I add sour cream, I add guacamole to it. And I don't know, it's just been really satisfying to have a little bit of food prepped with very, very minimal effort. I used to spend multiple hours in the kitchen on Sunday, and that worked for a time in my life, but I found some easier, quicker ways, or I designate certain recipes to be cooked on certain nights and then the leftovers to be used either for lunch or for dinners the next day or two. And so you got to find what works, and you want to find recipes that are protein forward. So that, again, can be a really big mistake because we're just not full. And if you're only having carbs, you're going to burn right through those. And the other thing too is carbs are not the devil, but it can be helpful to reduce carbohydrates. I can't say this works for every woman, but for a lot of women, we do really, really well when our carbohydrates are coming from fruit and they're coming from veggies. And we do very, very minimal pasta. We do very minimal breads. Again, please do not take that you cannot have those things, but I find that less is better. And then it's nice to have on a few occasions or a smaller serving than what you normally would have done. Okay. So this next one is not having a complete plan. So this is a huge, huge, huge mistake when it comes to weight loss, is we don't have a complete plan, and we don't have a plan that's adaptable, okay? So what do I mean by a complete plan? So you truly need to have the resistance training, you need to have the cardiovascular training, you need to have nutrition, and then what I find is recovery needs to be in there in some degree, and then coaching. You've got to have coaching and support. Whether you hire a coach, whether it's, a friend, a family member, it's important to have that. So you want to create a very well-rounded plan. It can't just be all nutrition. It can't just be all working out. It can't just be all cardio, right? You can't just sit in saunas and cold plunges and hope and pray that the fat falls off of us. That's just not how it works, okay? Can you get benefits from it? 100%. I'm a huge fan of it. But what I have found is we need to piece this stuff together. Then what do I mean by adaptable? So we have to adapt things, just like with nutrition. What gets the first 20 pounds off may not get the next 20 pounds off. And so when do you adapt? What should you adapt? What do you need to do? How long have you been on a restriction? Do we need to bump things up for a little bit to then pull them back down? So those are all things to consider with nutrition. The other thing that needs to be adaptable is your resistance training. Now, with resistance training, you want it to be progressive in nature. So you've got to start with the foundation, work your way up. And so here's what I'm talking about. And this is what we have found to be a really sweet spot for most people is you want to have a program that you're going to do for about 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes we can go to 8 weeks depending on the goal, but 4 to 6 weeks is typically the sweet spot. And I like to do 4 weeks because the first week it's new, you get sore, you're excited. Second week, you're like, all right, I'm settling in. I remember last week, got it, maybe increasing weights a little bit or reps. And then with week 3, you're like, okay, got it, cool. We did it. It's done. Week 4, you're like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this workout, but you did it. And there was the consistency of doing these workouts. Then the next, so on that, let's say 5th week, you do a whole new program. Okay. So you want it to be progressive in nature. If you're focusing on hypertrophy 1 month, then you focused on strength the next month, then maybe you focused on some conditioning. And again, this is all going to matter back to your goal. What do you desire? What do you want to see happen with your body? So that is what I'm talking about when it comes to being adaptable. The other things you want to think about is what season of life are you in? Have you been battling a lot of stress? Are you traveling a ton for work? Are you going to be on vacation? Are you going? So you want to think about what all is coming at me. So I would not do this intense, mass building program, meaning you're throwing on lean tissue. If you knew that work was really stressful, you were going to be traveling all the time, you weren't going to have the same setup that you would have at home, and I would potentially focus on something different. Or let's just say, heaven forbid, you get sick, got, the latest, greatest cold that's going around or the flu, something that just kind of knocks you out. You want to consider adapting your plan. Maybe you just need to simply shift workouts because after a week, you're going to be okay. But maybe it really takes you out, right? Maybe it really takes you out. You're frustrated. You're so tired. You're trying to recover. The last thing you want to do when you're not well is go try to kill a workout, right? Because you're going to get the reverse effects. It's going to take you longer to get better from that illness, whatever the virus or whatever it is that you're working through. So what you want to think about is, okay, let's focus more on really good nutrition, keeping my inflammation down, maybe some range of motion when it comes to my workouts. Maybe the workout isn't appropriate. Maybe we really double down on hot and cold therapy, like getting in a sauna and doing a cold plunge. Maybe the cold plunge isn't appropriate because you do have a virus and that's just going to put more stress on the body. So you want to really consider what is the most appropriate thing. And that's why it's really important to have a coach help you put that together. Someone who has navigated what you're going through or has the science and the research behind it. So this is why I talk about a common mistake, because that is a lot of moving parts. For anyone that's hearing this, you're probably going, dang, I had no clue that all these factors weighed into it. And I don't want it to sound overwhelming, but when it's your craft, it's not overwhelming. For me, I'm just like, cool, okay, we're going to navigate this, we're going to move this, and yeah, life is good. And for the everyday person, you just don't know, so you beat yourself up, you're frustrated. Oh, why can't I just get a good workout in? Well, girl, you've been sick. Like, let it go, right? Don't put that pressure on yourself. But also don't let it be the reason why you're off the rails, off track. Focus on what you can control. So the last one that I want to leave you with and kind of pull this podcast all together, and just this one is really everything with what I see as one of probably the biggest mistakes in weight loss is not sticking with it long enough. So too many times we get frustrated, we didn't see results as fast as maybe someone else did, or we've been stuck at the same damn number for eternity. Listen, girl, I get you. Like, I've been there, I felt it. And the second you want to just throw your hands up, say a few cuss words, and just give up, I want you to know that's the very, very second you are going to see results. Okay, I've seen it way too many times. I have had to coach so many women off the ledge, and literally that next day, the scale goes flunk. Okay, so I hope you understand the flunk means down. So I want you to understand that this journey takes time. It truly takes time to change who you are. I fought like hell to get the first 26 pounds off my body, okay? And I'm embarrassed that I even had that weight on my body, but I did, okay? I was eating and drinking all the things, super stressed out. I can't even blame having the kids. Like, that wasn't even part of it. I even remember a Christmas, and I was so stressed out because we had just sold our dream home back to the builder that messed it all up in the building process. We had just gotten out of that mess. Now, mind you, for a period of time, we had to quote unquote squat in the house. This was per our attorney. Oh my God. And I learned so many things, but that was so stressful. It was so stressful to be living in a home that you technically didn't own anymore, but our next home wasn't finished. So it was being built, and it can only be built so fast. And we had to ensure that it was safe, it was built right. But I remember that time and space where I just pounded drinks, okay? And it wasn't right. I wish I knew what I knew now about programming and mental programming. I would have handled that situation totally different because we were getting the desired outcome, but it was a very, very stressful time. Then we finally move into the home, the second home that we built. And literally months later, the pandemic hit. And I remember just going, oh my God, I can't catch my breath. I can't catch my breath. And I remember just saying, screw it. And just eating and drinking more. I was more drinking than anything. And I'm not proud to say that, but I'm saying that because there's different seasons in our life, and there's seasons that we go through. The best thing that we can do is we can learn. But what I know is how long it took me to get that weight off. And I kept getting so frustrated and so mad. How come I can coach all these people? They lose weight. You know, hell, I had a woman lose 117 pounds in a year. Why can't I get 26 pounds off my body in a year, right? And I fought it and fought it and fought it until I finally just let it go. And I had to start becoming this new woman, okay? So I had to truly uncover what exactly that I wanted. See, I wanted to lose weight and eat my cake too, right? And I wanted to be able to still drink like I was drinking, and I wanted to still see results because I was working out. I was doing all the things, right? when I really wasn't addressing all the actions. All the actions weren't aligning. And so sometimes we're hard-headed, okay? I am. I definitely know that. And I've definitely had to work on that quite a bit. But we've got to stick to this long enough to see the desired outcome. The other thing too that I want to speak into this is give yourself the grace that it's not just going to be this straight line down. It never is for women, okay? But what it can be is it can go down, then we learn, then it goes down, then we learn. And here's the other cool thing. You can make goals, okay? So when you lose the weight and you get it off, right? You get this weight off, then start creating new goals, okay? See, with myself personally, I've got about 6 more pounds that I'm going to get off of my body. I'm going to be in the best percentage of body fat, so meaning the lowest fat on my body than I've ever seen. And what's been really, really fun is seeing the lean tissue, seeing the fruits of my labor from lifting and doing the things that I had been doing. So there's a couple different schools of thought when you do this. You can put the lean tissue on first, then pull the fat off, or you can do it the other way. You can do it together. I would say it's a little more challenging. You have to be a little more disciplined, but it's been really, really fun to just see, holy crap, like that is cool to see the muscle like that, or man, I've never seen my arms look like that. And I'm pretty excited, but I got to get these 6 pounds off. Okay. So understand that it takes time. This is going to take time, and you're going to have to stick with this longer than you wanted, but it's worth every aspect, because think about how long you've desired this result. Is a year really that big of a deal? No. But the women that think that this is just going to happen in 2, 3, 4 months, sorry, girl. We got a lot of stuff to work through. We got a lot of things, especially if we've got different programs around food. So I hope this has been helpful, insightful to understand that these are some common mistakes that happen. And I think one of the biggest mistakes outside of all of this, and this isn't me just tooting my own horn over here, but I think what is the difference maker is having a coach who can put together the proper program for you and then help you get through life and understand what you're feeling is normal, helping you work through the different emotions that come up along the way. I have them too. I am not immune to standing on the scale going, Arin said it was feedback, right? So I get you. I totally get you. So I want you to know this journey is worth it. It is worth every aspect. It's worth every frustration. It's worth every tear. And I'm going to tell you, when you put together a complete program, it's pretty clockwork. Okay. I watch women do this all the time. Then I also watch women struggle, and that's okay too. The struggle is where we learn. When you're feeling resistance on this journey, I want you to understand that that is a good thing. I just had to share this with a client just this week, and she was not very thrilled with what I had said. And when you feel resistance, you have to lean into the resistance. When you feel the resistance, you have to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? When you learn, don't fail. When we learn, don't quit, okay? The worst thing you can do in this journey is quit, especially when you made a decision to start it. Cannot let your subconscious mind know that you're allowed to quit. That's probably one of the biggest characteristics that I absolutely feel strongly that we have to work through. We have to work through this urge to quit, because when you quit, you're showing yourself that you don't get what you want. And I know with a little more grit, a little more discipline, you're going to get on the other side of it. Just got to ask the right questions. You got to have someone help you navigate through this stuff. And I just want you to know you're normal. You're normal if you feel different feelings along this journey. It's absolutely normal. All right. Well, I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been insightful and helpful. Please, please, please share this with another woman. Let this be the podcast that just helped her get over the edge Okay, great. That was some good information. And man, I didn't realize that. And then here's the thing. If you have questions, just send them to me. I'm on any social media at Arin Lindauer. So it's Arin, Arin. Lindauer is Lindauer. All right. Have an awesome day.